All right, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another of our interviews on Open 5G. Today, I am joined by John Baker, who is Senior VP of Business Development for Mavenir. I'm in Austin, John's in Dallas. As soon as he opens his mouth, you're going to realize we've got two Brits here living in Texas.
Yeah.
John and I have known each other for a while. So John, let's get straight into it. How does Mavenir view the opportunity here for Open 5G? What do you see out there?
Yeah, from a business perspective, Mavenir sees a fantastic opportunity now, going forward. I think, if we go back 4 years, we were saying, look, how on earth is this going to happen? And, how are we going to, break apart the industry, if you like, or disrupt the industry? And it really came down to one interface and, getting an open front haul specification, for 4G at the time, then moving it to 5G, really sort of tore the industry apart, in terms of what's going on in terms of, disruption of the major suppliers, bringing new people into the ecosystem. And if we can keep that momentum, and bring that into lower cost, technology deployments, etc., the carriers are going to benefit and pick up on that trajectory. We're seeing statements from from Vodafone, Telefonica, Deutsche Telekom, very much behind Open RAN and Open 5G. And so, I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of companies, not just Mavenir.
Yep. Do you think that 5G, obviously, as you said, we're moving from LTE to 5G. Do you think that it just so happens the timing's right for open networks as we're doing that move, or is it the move to 5G is pushing towards those open networks?
No, I think it actually is something different. And I sort of come at this as, this is the perfect storm in the industry, that you've got, Chinese, anti-Chinese policy going on from a security perspective. You've got, so you're down to 2 vendors in the supply chain at this point that, operators are not happy with. And so, and then, this jump from, custom hardware to virtualized software, you put those 3 ingredients together and, as I refer to it, as the perfect storm. You couldn't have planned a better scenario in some respects for reinvigorating the industry. And, we're seeing like VCs now putting money back into startup companies. I think I've probably seen the most record number of venture-funded companies in the last 2 or 3 weeks getting money for development in the telco space. Radio companies are investing in the radio space. So, I think you see a whole change that's happened in the industry over the last 3-4 months, and hopefully that momentum is going to continue.
Right. Right. So I know you talk to a lot of mobile operators around the world on a daily basis.
Daily basis. Yeah.
When you talk about open networks, open architectures, what are the advantages you point them to, you highlight?
Yeah, clearly we start off with sort of the cost saving aspects of it all, and and there's I suppose you get a fair amount of negativity, in the sense of, well, we don't believe you, and they're sort of trying to compare apples with pears. But what we find is that people struggle to understand how you size a compute engine. So you're moving from Erlang's of traffic through a piece of hardware where everything is physically defined to a virtual platform where actually nothing's defined. The only thing that's defined on that platform is the number of compute cores, and then if you can fill that with a lot of signal processes effectively, then you get the economies of scale. So the more processes I can put on one platform, the better off I am from a price perspective. And at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're looking at a product that's coming out of the IT industry, which is mass produced in the hundreds of thousands of units as a server, versus a piece of custom hardware. And that's really where the cost savings are. It's custom hardware versus off the shelf mass produced servers, and then obviously software licensing, you're looking at the same. But cost always comes into this. And then secondly, you always get into the system integration discussion of, well, I want one back to pat effectively in terms of system integration, and but in reality, this whole system integration argument is a sort of a bit of a false argument, because you look at the way operators have been doing it today. They may have one OEM that fronts it, but it's done with a lot of small companies that have learned how to integrate networks over the years, and so nothing in that respect will change. Whether it's a Nokia, Ericsson, or a Mavenir leading the system integration, it will still use a lot of small companies to get it done quickly, and that's how the industry's been built. And so in that sense, the system integration path will change. But I suppose underneath it, people don't like change. It's the fear of change that gets people. Eventually, they'll get there. But it depends on how much risk they feel they're going to take right up front, because they're risking their organization, they're risking their 9-to-5 job in the basis of upending technology. But if it's I refer to some of these company decisions, if you like Kodak. If at some point in time, if you're not on the train, you're going to miss the boat and get left behind, sort of thing. But I think operators are getting there. You're seeing the momentum and the numbers of operators that are really going down that path.
Right. Do you find a different approach from the operators? And I'm just thinking about the US operators and just think about what they do today. They have very different approaches to how much they do their own integration. Some will buy their own hardware and do a lot more of the work themselves. Others are far more reliant on outsourcing and external vendors. So are you finding the same thing with the open architectures, that some are willing to take on more of the load, or are we still too early for that?
Yeah, I think some of it's where the US operators are in their spending cycle. That's the way sort of I attribute to some of this, in terms of they made their plans a year or so ago. They made large commitments to, deploy 5G networks, and they're sticking to it. The other side of it is, they do. And, when I was building out the PATBEL network in California, we used a lot of contractors in terms of building networks, and that model hasn't changed. And so in that sense, they can do it if they really want to do it. But I think, there's another dynamic underneath all of this, which, is going to come to a head fairly soon, is that, the current incumbents, make so much money out of the US market. They're going to hang on to this US market with every rope that they can hang on to it with. It's so the danger of it is that they'll get so entrenched, everybody will get left behind. So something's going to give fairly soon, I'm sure. But you've got global economies, if you like, being attached to the US market.
Yep. So obviously challenges, the systems integration question comes up. What other challenges do the operators, ask you about, or what other things come up?
I think, you sort of run into the normal questions. Well, okay, how many networks have you deployed? What's the scale you've deployed at? Well, that's just, it's a tough question. We're right at the beginning, we're early in deployments, and, just hardening down product. But, this is no different to, introducing a new G, if you like, into a mobile network. Every time you put a new generation of, mobile technology in there, you've got the teething problems, you've got the software problems, and between, your customer and the team, you'll fix it, and that's the general understanding. And, as I said to somebody the other day, in reality, all we've done is open an interface. And you look at the noise, and I can't do this, and over my dead body, it's and all we've done is opened up one specification that should have been opened up 15 years ago. So all the excuses you hear, and you say, well, look, okay, well, just publish the spec, but keep your hardware the same, keep your supplier the same. You don't have to change anything, and you comply to Open RAN. So. It's amazing, that people are running in fear almost of some of this stuff.
It's a good point. I'm kind of laughing here, but yeah, you're right. We haven't, it's not as if we're moving to release 15, 16, and 17, or, deploying what, OFDMA, we moved to, right? CDMA. I mean, all we've done is move one interface.
Yeah, we've done half of things in our lives from a technology perspective, but the whole industry is in flames because of this one interface. It's amazing. Oh, I look back at this in life, and as you say, have a good laugh over it.
It's a good point. I mean, you put it in perspective like that, it kind of changes the dynamic. You mentioned, we're at the beginning. Obviously, there's a big ecosystem here. You also mentioned you used to build networks, and you used a lot of suppliers. Even with the big vendors, have a lot of suppliers as well. These ecosystems have been built over a long time. So where are we with the Open 5G ecosystem? Because obviously it does take a lot of suppliers, and there's a lot of components. So where would you say we're at?
Yeah, I think, certainly on the radio front, I think it's growing fast. There's been a number of RFIs, RFQs out from operators. And I think as of today, I count 19 radio manufacturers out there. That's including the existing 3. Companies are opening up their radio product development lines. They are investing, which is fantastic. When we started this back, 3.5 years ago, we were looking around the market for radios. We found 2 companies that were making product for the big incumbents, but now you can go out there and I had one radio company who say, look, I'd shut my product line down 2 years ago because I saw no future in it. And now they've opened it up and it's vibrant again in the sense of they're producing radios for with Open RAN interfaces. And so I think operators can get choice. You need a large number of smaller companies to cover the multitude of radios that are needed around the world. And then, the challenge now is to getting them from what I call a class 2 radio to a class 1 radio in terms of price, performance, and size and weight, the normal characteristics. But those radios are good enough to put in networks today, and then it's really then the roadmaps and investment essentially going forward. On the compute side, I think you're seeing probably 5 or 6 compute companies there. You've always got Dell, HP, Quanta, various OEM box companies making product. I think where you're going to see a need for pushing on the technology is most of this is based on Intel x86. So in one sense, you're saying, okay, well, we're moving from a limited number of suppliers to a limited supply of chips, if you like. So, NVIDIA, ARM, AMD, are all going to they're all hovering on the outskirts to enter this space. So I think, within a year or so, you're going to see a multitude of chip vendors in here as well.
Right. Any areas that you think are particularly lagging that cause you concern?
I think the knowledge base, if you like, of building mobile technology, okay, we talk about, leveraging, internet technology, but it's surprising how much of that is still not green. And when I say, not green, it's, hardened to the extent that you don't need air conditioning systems and, all this other stuff to go around it. It's, obviously from a cell site perspective, you're looking to put this stuff out in hardened environments, hard environments. And yeah, can I go out there and buy a compute function that runs from, minus 30 to plus 50? They make the high end work, but the low end temperature wise. And then, most boxes have fans and, that type of stuff in it, which is really not good for the mobile industry. So, I think, there's a new niche area, if you like, for hardened DU type applications out there. And then how this all sort of integrates into antennas long term as you get more and more processing into massive MIMO antennas and that type of stuff.
Yeah. So it's kind of ironic because we went through all those hardening procedures with the radios.
Yeah.
The radios used to be in a nice big air conditioned box with a coax running up the antenna. Then we put them on top of the tower with the antenna, had to harden them. So what you're saying is we need the same thing with that.
Just need the same thing to happen with compute engines and, getting a few more mobile engineers to work in those companies to harden products, it's, but that said, it's, the other piece of it is, how to scale a compute platform, because today they're all built with like video controls and multiple ports and stuff like that. So, there's some shaking up and optimization to be done, but we're seeing that, people are coming to the table with, cost reduced platforms and stuff like that, all centered around sort of the compute function. But, it'll happen. No, there's no question. It's just, I think a lot of it's been, is this market really going to happen? And I think it's only in this last 6 to 9 months that people have really got on board and starting to believe in it. And, when you've got this thing's become as much a political engine is a technical challenge. You know, it's global, and you know that's the great thing of waking up in the morning. You know, you don't know which government is calling you from where. You know.
All right, so we're about to go into 2021 here. Where do you think we'll be by the end of the year? By the end of 2021, what we'll be looking at? And what progress?
Yeah, I think you'll be seeing some of the first major deployments coming online. You know, obviously Rakuten is going to continue to grow and expand out. You know, that's great. A great test case. Then Dish, you know, clearly Dish has got to be online on air in certain of the markets. So you know, you're going to still see some real proof cases of this, and you know, Vodafone similar, you know, in terms of you know, the 2600 sites or whatever they put out there. You know, so you're going to see deployments going on globally, and people really trying to get their arms around it. So no, I think, you know, 2021 is going to be an exciting year for you know, really proving the use cases. And then I think the doubters, if you like, you know, people that are sitting on the fence, you know, will have enough information that they can, you know, make true decisions. And you know, and it's good in the sense, you know, the doubters are going to hold back, and so you know, you can see a good long-term business with all of this. You know, not everybody's going to jump at once.
Right. Right. So operators, obviously, they don't make decisions overnight. They also make decisions quite a way in advance, because I mean, everybody underestimates how hard it is to deploy a network, but a lot of the work is crawling up that tower, putting up the equipment, right? It's so when do you think we'll be at the point where you know, let's say the majority of new deployment, new cell sites or conversions, upgrades, whatever, is on an open architecture?
Oh, you know, I think as a if I had my crystal ball, and you know, but I think within 4 to 5 years time, I think you're going to see majority of new contracts are going to be placed on open architecture technology. I think you know, clearly this rip and replace from a security perspective is causing things to happen a lot faster than it normally would in the marketplace. But you know, if people start to see the benefits, I think, you know, it's going to be really hard to justify spending any money on any of the old architecture stuff, even for expansions. You know, I think you'll see people picking up their networks and moving them around, if you like, so that you know, if this open interface issue is not fixed on, you know, the X2 level effectively, so you can build, you know, two networks, one on, you know, two suppliers, one on top of the other. You know, people will pick up their networks and move them around to get the lower cost technology in there. And I think, you know, vendors will help them do that.
Okay, John, thanks very much. For those watching, we've been talking with John Baker, who is Senior VP of Business Development for Mavenir. John, as always, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoyed it.